Welcome back, folks. Today is April 29th, 2025, and it is April garden tour time. I'm excited about this one, and for no other reason than this morning with my coffee, I actually watched my March garden tour, which was on the 26th of March, and I'm out here every single day, so I see what's going on, but the day-to-day progression pales in comparison to the month over month, and I didn't realize it's what I was seeing this morning. And you'll see that in the garden if we do month over month views from the last video to this video, the garden tour videos, how some beds that were planted and had germination you couldn't even see in the video, and today they're full-fledged plants. It's you get those longer days, a lot more light, your warmer nighttime temperatures, your warmer daytime. Yeah, we've had heavy swings from nights to days, but overall, it's been more than enough good weather and good sunlight to get these plants just pushing off like crazy. So let's take a look at what we've got going on. I think you're in for some good viewing. So we're going to start where we usually start, and that is in the southeast corner of the garden, which is where the strawberry beds start. Now, it's not the only area we have strawberries, but it's a logical place to start to walk through. And so far this year, we've harvested, I looked at the spreadsheet this morning because I am tracking all my harvests this year, which is the first time I've done this, and it's already given me some really good feedback. And we've harvested 73 pounds of strawberries so far this year. Really pleased with that. And it tells me that I can probably actually dial back the number of beds I have next year. So the strawberry beds in the March garden tour, I noted that we had a couple of flowers, and now we've actually got ridiculous amounts of berries. So, 32-day span, not only have the flowers sort of visually tapered off a bit, but the fruits already started really setting hard. I can even see runners in the pathways. It's been really strong. Now, the first 9 beds in the last video were strawberries. Now it's only the first 8 beds. And this is something that was hard for me to do, but I did it anyway. This bed is number 8. This bed is number 9. The first 3 beds are really strong. Bed 4 is okay. 5 is pretty strong. 6 and 7 are pretty good. 8 is a little weak. 9 was even weaker. And I had a tray of San Marzanos, a determinate variety that I grow, and I said to myself, I'm already getting a lot of strawberries. Do I scrap that bed early and just plant the San Marzanos, or do I just give those strawberries a full season? And I just couldn't keep the strawberries in the ground. And that really was not easy for me to do because I really don't give up on plants easily, but I didn't have another place for the San Marzanos to go in. And like I said, the strawberries, we've already been harvesting enough, so I don't think I'm going to suffer an issue with pulling those and going with the tomatoes instead. But it's not easy to give up on plants or entire beds, but I knew it was the prudent move, and I pulled that trigger. Now, one thing that is noticeable, at the end of this strawberry bed, I've got my onions, some of my onions, and a lot of them are starting to bolt. And I have another onion bed with the same issue. And this is going to be a byproduct of the really cold winter followed by the up and down spring we've had. These went into the ground in early fall of last year, maybe mid-fall. And even without that first year of growth, the weather basically told the plants the plants responded to the weather, hearing that they had a full year of growth and bulbing when they in reality did not. And this is the end result, is this little elf hat is going to blow up into a flower. And the cool thing about this, again, you got to take the positive away from it. One, this is all green onion. I've been chopping those out every day for my salads, so I'm still getting food out of this. But I've never saved onion seeds before, and this is an opportunity for me to learn how to do that. Now, you also see a couple of lettuce plants around here, and one out here. My lettuce seed starting this year has gone horribly, and to that end, I am am very thankful that a few of my lettuce plants from last year clearly went to seed and self-seeded around the garden in a couple of spots, because that has given me some lettuce to bring inside while I've been trying to get my lettuce up and running for a full bed's worth. In the last tour in the end of March, these two beds were barely even raked out at that point with no plants. I had a mid-April garden walkthrough where I showed these tomatoes that were installed in a really weakened state because they just didn't respond well in the cell pack. And you can see now they are looking just fantastic, especially compared to what they were. I wasn't worried about them once they made it into the garden and got established, despite the fact that they barely had true leaves, because I've done this variety before. I've planted them out at various stages of growth, and I've seen them respond very positively, and this is all saved seed, so they seem to be very well adapted to my climate here. And I knew once they got out here that we were probably going to be in pretty good shape. I got a couple of gaps where I lost plants here and there, but ultimately these beds are going to produce couple 100 pounds for us for the freezer. There's another strawberry bed. I've got to get, after this filming is done, I've got to get out here and harvest for a couple hours all my strawberries. And this bed was one of the later ones I put in, and this taught me that even if I am late retransplanting my strawberries, because every year I pull all my strawberries out and I retransplant them around the garden, this tells me that I can absolutely do that later than my October 15th was always my timeline to get it done. This was probably closer to, gosh, mid-late November, and they still had time to root out well enough to produce a crop this year. This bed is my sweet pepper bed, and the variety I'm growing is YOLO Wonder, and down the middle of it, you're going to see I direct sowed some daikon radish. Now, daikon radish is a winter radish. Now, that doesn't mean you sow it in the winter. If you really want to grow a good, solid, heavy winter radish, you sow it in, I would say for me, I'm sowing it in late summer to get it. If I'm sowing it indoors, it's a late summer for a transplant in early fall, where it gets 2 months coming into late fall, early winter to really finish out. It will not bolt in that time frame here. These are definitely going to bolt before they really root out, but I'm fine with that because it'll give me some kind of root, and it's going to give me greens as well. So that doesn't bother me one bit. These peppers are spaced probably 1 foot apart, with, I think that's probably about 14 to 16 inches between the two rows. And the spacing's fine. I did this last year. These came into the garden a couple of weeks ago, pretty small, and I've already seen them respond really well to getting access to more nourishment in the soil that I've got built here. This bed is kind of empty, but at the end I've got a couple of transplanted cucumber plants. And what I'm going to do this year is, as the course of the season goes on, I'm going to continue to plant cucumbers out here every few weeks, because I've noticed that my cucumbers have a tendency to fruit really well for a handful of weeks and then die. Now, I did direct sow some old arugula seeds in here, and I don't think I'm getting much in the way of germination. This may be one, it may be a weed. I'm not really that concerned because I've got a lot of lettuce that is small right now that in about a week could be transplanted out, and this is a beautiful spot for that. It might be a little late to finish lettuce with a really big quantity of leaves between now and when it's going to get way too hot and lettuce is going to bolt, but it's something that I could put in the ground that will root out and give me food before the next cucumbers go in. And this is the aforementioned other onion bed, and you can just see the flower stalks all over the place. I'd be surprised if I even get a single onion out of here that can be stored. Kind of a heartbreaker, but like I said, I get to learn how to save seed. That's something. Now, this bed in the March update, this was originally supposed to be an asparagus bed, and I put 13 crowns in there last year in the form of, I actually sowed seeds back in February of 24, and I think probably June I transplanted them out here. 13 plants, They established very well in the cell pack. They transplanted well. They grew little stalks. Everything was fine. In the March tour, I noticed only 6 of the 13 came back, and I transplanted these 2 rows of greens on either side, thinking to myself, this asparagus is just not working out. No big deal. I'll have greens. Then all of a sudden, 3 days later, the other 7 crowns woke up, and this is the end result. These things have just fired off really heavily, and I think this is definitely going to be an asparagus bed going forward. The only concern I have right now is, are my crowns deep enough into the ground, or did I plant them a little too shallow? If it's too shallow, what I might do is, along the bed, I might frame it with logs from fallen trees in the forest and fill the area up with a bit of compost, sort of top dressing the beds after we cut the asparagus back, so that they have a bit more material to work in. I haven't decided that yet. It's I don't know if these should have collapsed over like this under their own weight. So if you've grown asparagus, let me know, because this is now a 2nd year plant, and I didn't know if they should be upright or collapsing. And if they're collapsing, my guess is that their crown isn't buried deep enough. And you can see through that process, they've really been taking over the greens that I put in. Now, something that's been a bit of an irritant this spring because of our up and down weather, I've had a lot of early bolting of my greens all over the garden. So whereas most of these, here's another one, most of these would give me pounds of greens throughout a couple of months, they really, they haven't liked that. Got a couple of broccoli on this one too, because my broccoli bed, which you'll see in a bit, was already full. So I had extra space down here because I didn't have a full 2 rows worth of greens, and the broccoli's 3 of 4 made it over here, and they're looking really nice. And along this edge, I did a video of just showing me for a couple of minutes scraping back this pathway material and transplanting extra greens that I had. And because it's space that I've got, yeah, another bolted brassica, that's tatsoi. But I had all this extra space, and I'm trying to look more and more at this whole garden space as ostensibly an 8,100 square foot raised bed, to where if I have space that's out of the way, it's probably going to be a potential planting space, because all of this garden is layer upon layer of organic matter. What I'm walking on right now, this is just wood chip on top of wood chip on top of wood chip. So if I dig deep enough, yeah, I'm still going to find pieces of wood, but that's basically what that was. And I mean, that's technically a planting surface. If it's out of the way, I'm not going to step on it. You know, food or flowers can go in there well enough. And now we've got our blackberries. And what can you say about this? This is phenomenal. I'm so pleased with how this bed is turning out, this whole area of blackberries. I'll be curious to see by weight what these plants yield for the year. Because if I had to recommend a berry to somebody to grow, I think blackberries are really amazing, if for no other reason than you can get what I think is a very fair amount of food by weight in a relatively small space compared to something like strawberries. I have now 19 beds, I think, of strawberries, but being they grow on the ground and instead of upright, you're committing a lot of space to that, whereas this, with all these berries, is just kind of straight up and down into bed. Yeah, it creeps. You need some space for the canes to go off to the side, but I feel like the up and down growth provides you a whole lot of food in a smaller space. Like I said, now that I'm weighing my harvest this year, we'll see how that turns out as far as proving that out. But if nothing else, it diversifies what I get in the freezer and diversifies the roots you get in the ground. And I've got this guy propped up because this is a cane that's way too long and heavy, and I didn't want it sitting on the ground. And over here I've got caged a blackberry sucker that's just really nice and thick, and I didn't want to kick him over. So I haven't pulled him out of the ground yet for potting up, but I still might do that. The blueberries are all looking good except for Pink Lemonade. He might come out. I might replace him. I intended to actually come through and pull most of the flowers off of these. I pulled some, but not really most, because I didn't want to damage the foliage. And I figured, you know, it's about time we get some kind of berry out of these bushes. As we come along the fence line, blue potatoes, those were installed back in, I think, mid-February. I have a video for that one. It was done because they were in storage. They were getting wrinkly. They had these 8 to 12 inch chit shoot systems that were thrown off of them, and I just had to get them in the ground somewhere. And because they weren't in great shape, I did not want to commit bed space to them. And again, the pathways here are rich in organic matter. It's right up against the fence. It's out of the way. It seemed like a good area for me to put the potatoes in. And for the most part, I think probably 2/3 of them came out of the ground. And I'm not displeased with that. This is a little bit of a raised bed experiment. This was actually a table that I homemade for, I can't remember why I did, with a corrugated metal roofing material as the top. I broke the table down and I said, I kind of have a raised bed here, and I decided to move it out here with this, and I filled it with this organic matter, and this is just deciduous leaf fall and grass clippings that I mixed together on top of the native soil. And I've been kind of turning it around here and there just to kind of get the material more and more incorporated. I think what I'm going to do with this in the coming days is I'm going to take some compost. I'm going to top this bed with actual homemade compost, tamp it down a bit, not overly firm, but firm enough. I'm hoping that compost helps to break this down even faster, and then I'm actually going to play around and maybe put some plants into that homemade compost, knowing that they're not going to be overly successful. They can still grow something, but I kind of figure that anything that you add to organic matter, be it more organic matter or something that's trying to root, can help break down less decomposed matter faster. It's more of a hypothesis than possibly a reality, but I've got extra lettuce seedlings that I've had under cover that need to go somewhere. Don't really have the bed space for them, and it seems like as good a use for them as any. So I'm going to go with that. Got a whole lot more strawberry beds. These have all been, interestingly enough, most of the strawberry beds in this garden went in at the same time. I've been very interested to see that this section closer to the gate has produced berries at an earlier rate than these, despite visual inspection of the plants being of very similar quality, and the quantity of flowers visually, again, seem like they were very comparable. They just seem to be maturing a little slower, which has been fine. I imagine that's just going to stagger the harvest a little bit, but it is kind of curious as to how and why that happened. Got fun little pathway strawberries all over the place as I tried to, this was strawberries last year as well, and even though the plants all came out of the ground, I missed some here and there. And I mean, you see that pathway strawberry plant out there, nice and healthy. Again, the pathways here are just organic matter, so it's been breaking down for years, so everything has a chance to grow pretty much anywhere, including, as you can see, all of these weeds. So with spring, for me, comes plants that look pretty strong and weeds that also look really strong. And something I've been better about this year is not letting myself get overwhelmed with the weeds. Because in prior years, the last 4 years, I've been fighting Bermuda grass in this garden, along with annual weeds as well. But Bermuda grass was really the pressure point for me. I got most of that out. And with that it freed me up mentally to relax on the weeds a little bit, because I can deal with annual weeds. They're a little irritating, but they're not hurting the harvest. They're not infesting the beds to any great deal. And if I have to deal with them in the pathways before I get some more wood chip down, I can deal with that. I'm in a much better mental place with weeds this year than I have been in prior years. And that feels really good, because that means I can focus on the plants. This is an okra bed. You can see I got plants running down the middle. The last two are not there anymore because their stems got busted undercover, and when I transplanted them out, I tried to bury that stem to see if it could repair itself, and it couldn't. They didn't make it, but I do have a couple more undercover that I can move out there. This bed has been a bit of a hodgepodge. It originally started with some early plantings of spinach, and I just harvested off of these today. Got one bolting already. This one's gonna bolt now. And then it got some bok choy. Most of the bok choy bolted as well. I've got a couple that have not, but they're quickly gonna, I say quickly going to, I can see that guy's bolted already now too. Bok choy has been a horrible springtime plant for me because they're not sizing up before they bolt. I'm getting no production out of them at all for the space they take. So I'll probably give up a bok choy for the spring and keep that as a fall crop. The rest of the bed is not a Brazen Greens mix, a mesclun mix. First time I bought the packet of seeds, I have not been thrilled with that packet of seeds, if for no other reason than I really expected it to be much more lettuce, and it was primarily spinach and brassicas, which I have no issue with, but I already have a really strong game going with brassicas, like mustard and kale and the tatsoi, the bok choy, and I wanted more lettuce, and I didn't get it in this pack of seeds, it seems like. So not thrilled with the pack of seeds, but again, the bed's gonna have plenty of edible greens for me, so I'm okay with that. And now I am thrilled with my carrot bed. I spent a lot of time thinning it out. I still do go through and thin it out, and the thinnings are edible, so I just mince them up for a salad. But I think we're gonna do really well with carrots this year. This is Danvers 126. It's the variety that I grow every year. Last year I tried in a bed, it might have been the sugar snap pea bed last year, or around this area, I had my carrots, and I had 5 different varieties. In the spring, every single variety except for Danvers bolted by June. I was shocked by that because I've never had my Danvers bolt in the springtime, and I've pushed springtime beds of this variety into a hot summer, into an early fall, and never lost a carrot to bolting. So it's my go-to variety and will be for the foreseeable future. My sugar snap pea, this is Sugar Ann. I've harvested off this one now twice. I put myself on an every 3-day harvest. And for those of you who aren't overly familiar with peas and how they grow, 3 primary types. You've got snow peas, which are typically harvested very, very flat. On the other end of the spectrum, you have your standard sort of English garden pea, which most people will let them fully bulb up to where you get a really thick pod and they'll shell them for shelling peas. And the cross between those two is a sugar snap pea. And these seem to be, this is actually a beautiful one right here. When they slightly start thickening out a bit, long before they get to having full shelling peas, you can take this in and eat it raw. I'm chopping these up for my salad right now, and it's adding a beautiful crunch to it. This variety is a dwarf variety, which is really nice because you can see actually you can't see, but I have 3 rows in this bed going all the way down, and they are self-stabilizing themselves, so I don't need a trellis. I love that about that, because anytime I have an opportunity to not build infrastructure in the garden, I like. This is a garlic bed, and this is the first one I installed in the mid-fall of last year, and it's because the bulbs that I had in storage did not look overly healthy, and I was worried that they weren't going to germinate at all. They did, so I put in those 4 beds in the back. We'll walk past them in a minute. Now I'm actually doing more research, and I think I might have had garlic mites. Yeah, so that does not bode well for what these are going to come out of the ground as. Now, I did pull one out yesterday to see if I could... Now, you can't see garlic mites to the naked eye. I think a 32x magnification is what I've read is the minimum to see slightly what they look like. But when you start getting into the 100x beyond that, that's when you can really see the shape of them. If they were infested with mites and I put them back in the garden, then I'm probably gonna have mites again. The one I harvested yesterday was very young. It's technically a green onion to where it hasn't bulbed out yet. They say that if you have a mite issue and it's bad, that the root will break off from the bulb very easily. Mine didn't. It looked very clean, but maybe it's just too early for mites to be showing themselves, or maybe that's not my issue. I will find out in about a month when these come out of the ground. Now we've got the beet bed, and right next door we've got another greens bed, the Brazen Greens mix. In the March 26th March Garden Tour, these beds I was speaking about how, oh, I direct sowed these things, and you could barely see anything on the ground at all. And this is 30 days later, and they are both greened up beautifully. And of course, we can see much more bolted brassicas. It's just been the challenge of the spring. That variety right there, I think that's bok choy, yeah. So that's not a surprise. Right next door to that one is a mustard, though, and that was a surprise because that was something that didn't bolt until May of last year. And now we've got 2 beds of fava beans, and these have been absolutely beautiful to watch this year. So I'm really pleased with how they're coming along. I hope they size up a bit more. They've probably got another month and a half of growth before they really start pushing out an amazing crop. But you can see the flowers are just stunning. So I'm thrilled with this bed. This is my experiment to see if I can grow some kind of a crop for a dried legume. And I'm picking fava beans because they have a very manageable sized pod, and you can get a fair weight of dried bean per pod. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for out of this. Over here, I'll show you this real quick because this is just the happy accidents that happen when you let things go to seed. That's a mustard plant, just tucked up against the fence, looking great. Got probably, if I harvested 4 or 5 of those leaves, got about a quarter pound. And that's a nice little serving for breakfast. We got another strawberry bed and my radish bed. The majority of this bed is Scarlet Globe. And I've got nice big roots in here. I pulled out a dozen of these for fermenting the other day, thinking that was going to be maybe not enough. And one of these came out of the ground at about 150 grams, which is really big for a spring radish. And I wound up, I think that was probably 800 grams that I harvested. We've got watermelon and cantaloupe in this bed. And I've got more lettuces around this that I'm trying to get going just to fill in the space and to see if I can get some lettuce going on. I think we're going to harvest something off of that. It's just not going to be really full-size leaves. And again, they might be bolting because we're coming into now 80-degree days on a regular basis with humidity probably up in the low 90s. More garlic. Again, jury's out. And then we've got potatoes. Red potato, Yukon Gold, Kennebec. Everybody here is looking much stronger now than they were. Heck, back in the March 26th tour, they were in the ground, but they had no shoot system. So that's, again, just over 30 days of growth coming out of these. 2 noticeable things. Well, 3. 1, we actually had frost damage on a lot of these, on a number of these in, oh gosh, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. They've all recovered well from that. I've actually noticed flowers on some, which I think feels awfully early because they're nowhere near having good-sized roots yet, because these were installed on March 9th. So, yeah, not even 2 months. There's no way they're close. They shouldn't be anywhere close to being having anything noticeable under the ground. And we're also in potato beetle season. So that's kind of a bummer, because now one of my daily tasks is spending a half an hour out here every day crushing potato beetles. And then we've got beet bed number 2, and this is a big stand of beets. That's probably about a 3.5 foot wide bed, 6 rows, multi-sown. These went into the ground looking kind of limp. They weren't really healthy in the seed tray that I had. But again, getting them in contact with the soil just did wonders for them. More greens. In case you haven't noticed the theme, I do like a lot of cruciferous greens in my diet. And this is my broccoli bed. This is Decicio. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I've got them spaced about a foot apart. I don't think I've grown this variety in the past, though I have tried seeding it before. Or if I did grow it, I grew it alongside Waltham. And I probably lost control out of who was who. But now I know this year all I have is Decicio, so I'll be able to better see what what the production's like on this one. But I'm thrilled right now with how the actual plants are looking. Really healthy. Got a couple of yellow leaves here and there, a little bit of damage from pests, but no real concerns about how they're going to finish out. One of the biggest changes we have since last tour, this was raspberries. And coming into about 4 days ago, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, I called those plants dead. When they had no leaf breaking dormancy, they had no new canes popping out of the ground. So I said, that's it, you guys are done. I had these Volunteer Mexico Midget tomatoes. It's small cherry tomato, really delicious, not very big in size. I took them out of a different area. I put them in cell packs. I rooted them out a little bit, and I decided this is a spot for them. And I'm gonna try this year for the first time to do a better job of managing tomatoes in the fashion that you see here, where you're running the string down and you're wrapping the string around the tomato as it grows up, and you're harvesting the fruit sets from the bottom up and removing the lower foliage as well, so you wind up with that really clean stem. I've never done that before. I think I tried it once and gave up on it, so it's more of a, I need to put a better effort forth, and I think this is going to be a good training ground for me on that. On March 26th in the tour, I noted that earlier that day prior to the tour, I installed this little fig early. And I say early because he was a cutting that I stuck back in late summer. He leafed out, didn't have much of a root system, but I really wanted to get him into this spot because this is a really nice spot in the garden that there's nothing else here. And yeah, so 30 plus days went by and he is still alive with plenty of growth. So I think barring some kind of a disaster, we're gonna have a beautiful fig here in the next few years. This is Aronia, also known with a less sexy name as chokeberry, because it throws a berry that is very astringent until it almost rots on the plant. Now, between last tour and this tour, not only did it fully leaf out, but it fully flowered out, and you can see we've got fruit sets. So yeah, a lot happened in that month. And then, what can you say about an elderberry? I mean, I'm gonna step back so you can see better what these folks look like. This is 2 plants, Bob Gordon, Wildwood, and yeah, what's that, 7 feet tall almost? And these were installed in 2023 late winter, so probably February, March 2023. And if you're looking for an edible plant, even if you don't want to eat, if you want to feed pollinators, and you're looking for a hedge of some sort to give some privacy, 2 years. I mean, I'm gonna totally propagate the heck out of these things and put them all over the property now. And then we've got my blackberry row. Actually, before we have that, I raked this space out last late March, and I threw some onion seedlings in here just to see what they would do. I didn't really have any other plants. I was thinking gummy berries in this area, but I decided when I tried to shop for them, everybody was sold out, so I went with the onions instead. Got a sunflower there, and what you're going to see is I have a theme of sunflowers in this area here that have self-seeded from last year's stock that I had. I say stock, I had one plant probably right at that T-post that just grew huge, threw seeds everywhere, and this is the end result. So I think today or tomorrow I'm going to pull them out, and along the fence, on the inside of the fence, I'm going to install them. And on this row of blackberries and garlic, everybody's looking nice and healthy. One thing that I did a couple of weeks ago, and I've never done this before, I decided for these blackberries to remove the floricanes once the primocanes started coming out of the ground. And the reason I decided to do that was because I didn't want the plant to put energy into fruiting this year on those canes. I wanted them to direct the energy into the root system. So I decided to do that. Everybody's responded well, and now what I'm going to do with this fella is I'm actually going to top him off probably pretty soon, because I don't want these plants to be any larger than about 2 feet tall, maybe 2.5. And I'm going to, once I do that, they'll throw out lateral branches, and when they do that, I'll probably cut those lateral branches at about a 2 foot mark as well, to have a really compact blackberry, so I don't have to trellis this area. Now, not every plant responded well to that hard prune of removing the floricane. I don't know why. Like this guy, for example, all of a sudden he was really unhappy with what I did. And there's one guy over here, same exact thing. Still trying to push out new growth, but they just did not respond well to that removal. And I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, because nobody else had it. I've got 16 plants here. All 14 of the 16 were fine with that disturbance that I did, except for those 2. So I'm not sure why. So yeah, as you can see, there's a whole heck of a lot going on in the garden in late April. A lot more than what was going on in late March. And it's gonna be a busy 5 to 6 months I've got ahead of me now. But that's the good stuff. If you like what you're watching, please like and subscribe. I'll do these monthly tours at the end of each month, and I'll do tours in between during maybe a couple times in the month. Not full tours like this, more just, hey, I see something really interesting, or hey, these few things are really good or really bad, and I just want to show kind of what goes on along the way. And in addition to that, I've got a few projects underway that are going to be videos. I'm tracking the red potatoes month to month. I've got a playlist for that. The elderberries, I've got I stuck some spring elderberry cuttings. I'm gonna have updates to that one as well. The fava beans have a playlist. And I'm going to have, on the first of every month, I'm gonna review my monthly harvests. And we're gonna talk about what I harvest by weight, and if that impacts plans going forward, what that's gonna be. So I think that's gonna be an interesting one as well. So again, if you like it, let's start some comments below. We're gonna have composting videos as well. It's a great time for spring. I hope your garden's going well if you have one, and if you don't have one, I hope this encourages you to get a little bit of a growing bug going in yourself, because it's work, but it's a whole lot more reward. So until next time, thanks for watching.